Hey, Shalom, Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Chachodash. Double honor to the apostles, bishops, elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to those in the highways and byways doing the works of sailing faithfully and continually fighting that good fight of faith. Lord willing, we have found that number to be delivered. But until then, we want to keep pushing this word, bringing out these prophecies, and Lord willing, we're finding that number to be delivered. All right, so end time headlines as of July 12, 2025. Nearly 3,000 UFO sightings reported in the first half of 2025. All right. Now, I'm gonna read a little bit of. I think I'm gonna read two paragraphs of this, and go from there. But again, UFO, unidentified flying object, right? So let's read this first two paragraphs. It says, reports of unidentified flying objects have surged in recent months, drawing attention from experts and in the public alike. So first and foremost, drawing attention from experts. Experts in what? Who are these experts and what are they experts in? All right. Now the public, I get, the average people have no idea what's going on, or even of, what they're perceiving in the skies. As the scripture says, be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. All right. But let's continue on. According to the data compiled by the National UFO Reporting Center, nearly 3,000 sightings were documented in the United States during the first half of 2025. This figure marks a significant increase compared to previous years, highlighting a growing interest in aerial phenomena. All right. And again, they like to use these words, phenomena, aerial phenomena. Again, it's comical at this point. Here it is 2025, and they're still talking about unidentified flying objects, right? So let's go to the second paragraph. It says, the center, which has been tracking such reports since 1974, relies on voluntary submissions from witnesses across the country. All right. So from 1974 till present, roughly 50 years. You mean to tell me Esau and his experts, all right, and his wise men still can't figure out what these are? That just goes to show you. The scriptures say they go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. All right. They know exactly what these things are, and they know exactly where they're coming from. All right. So let me finish off this paragraph. Many of these accounts describe strange lights, unusual shapes, and unexplained movements in the sky, as reported by News National. The spike in sightings could be attributed to heightened awareness and easy reporting methods. All right. So I'm just going to leave it right there. And again, we're in 2025, and all Esau can say is, such words as aerial phenomena, strange sightings, UFO, Now, I'm going to take you we're going to go to 2 Kings 6:17, and getting right to the point. And it says, and Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountains was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. All right. So point being made is they're talking about, all types of phenomena, unidentified flying objects coming from a so-called God-fearing nation. Right. Everything you need to know concerning these unidentified flying objects, quote unquote, is right in the scriptures. Where are the wise men? Where they can figure out all kinds of shit, all kinds of crazy mathematic, equations and problems, but they can't resort to the scriptures and find out that these unidentified flying objects have always been mentioned throughout time, they plaster on their money system "In God we trust." Well, if you trust in God, as you say, then why is it so hard for you to understand that the Lord spoke about these very same things that you now can't figure out? All right. So again, when the Lord opened up the young man's eyes, he saw the chariots of fire. So to give you a quick visual, this is probably something like what he saw. Those chariots, all up in the sky. And again, just a quick visual to get understanding of, when the Lord opened the young man's eyes, what he could have possibly seen. All right. But Esau's having a hard time trying to figure this out, right? He says he got his experts. All his experts got to do is open up the Bible. All right? Open up the scriptures and read. And I'm sure they have done that. But again, keeping the masses in the dark concerning these things because they don't want to cause alarm. And or if you're reading about these, so-called UFOs in the scriptures, well, what else the scripture might say? All right? He's dreading the day that the Lord is going to truly reveal who his people are, where to the point where they're going to find out the hard way what these objects are. All right? So let's continue on. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 1, and I'm going to jump down to about 16 or 17 here. All right, getting right to the point. I'll start at 15. And this is right to the point. Now, you can read the whole chapter, and it gives you the breakdown of what Ezekiel saw, the beings with the four faces. But I want to get right to the point on this, all right? Because my thought is that Esau has totally used the Bible in his favor when it came to, Christianity, when it came to coming over here and slaughtering North American Indian using this Bible, right? But he couldn't use it to understand that these things, which they say floating around in the sky, is exactly what the Bible said they were. Chariots of the Most High. 15. It says, "Now, as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon the earth by the living creature, with his four faces. The appearance of the wheel and their works was like unto a color of a beryl. And they four had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. When they went up their four sides, and they turned not when they went. As for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes round about them four." Okay, so now Ezekiel is describing what he saw. All right, so back in the ancient times, this object and these beings that he saw, they weren't your average people, so to say. All right, and the object that he saw, which he called the wheel within the wheel, and the rings were so high they were dreadful. This is talking about the chariots. This is talking about what Esau calls UFOs. But again, here it is 2025, and they're still talking about unidentified flying objects. All right, so let's go here. All right, so I want to get this here, right? And what we're looking at here is the College of Cardinals. Now look at it. You got the Cardinals, you got all these priests over here. You mean to tell me none of these people, not a damn near one, has understood what the Bible was speaking about when it spoke about the chariots of the Lord? to the point where these scholars are still talking about unidentified flying objects. Well, where are these guys at? This is the men of the cloth of Esau Edom, right? This is they who are ordained to be the ministers of God, as they say. Well, why is the world still having a hard time understanding what the chariots of the Most High are? Why is that? You mean to tell me no one here, nobody, not one person can come forward and say, hey, by the way, these objects that we're seeing are the chariots of the Lord, which was mentioned in the Bible? Why can't anybody say it? But that just goes to show you how full of shit this place is. Okay, these are supposed to be all men of God, all these people here. And I use that word God because of how they see it. But this is supposed to be them. They're supposed to be the experts in religion. They're supposed to be experts in the Bible, having the gift from God to do the work of the Lord. They're all full of shit. Every last one of them out here. Every last one of them. Yeah, and I said it. Because that's the truth. All right? That's the straight up truth. Now, let's go down to 2nd Ezra 13 and jump down to about, let's start about 10. You know, I should start at the top. Now start at 10. And let me just think. You know what? Let me jump up. I'll just start to the top. It says, and it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all things trembled that were seen under him. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it filleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. But I beheld, and lo, he had graven himself a great mountain and flew upon it. All right. So here we're talking about something that was being seen by Ezra in the vision. He said the man graved himself a great mountain and flew upon it. Verse 7. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were so afraid, and yet durst fight. All right. So this is Esau and his military coming up against the Lord. All right. And this is what Ronald Reagan was talking about. This is what Ronald Reagan was talking about when he said, you know, if there were to be some outside, entities, that we would have to put away all of our differences and come together and fight. This is what Ronald Reagan's talking about. All right. So again, is it really a mystery that they don't know and understand what the chariots of the Lord are? Or is this that they're keeping this in under wraps so the people won't be in hysterics? Verse 7 again. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, they which were gathered together to subdue him were so afraid, and yet durst fight. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he had sent out of his mouth, as it were, as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempest. All right. So this is that chariot that the Lord is going to come on, right? So the point being made altogether is the Bible has clearly identified and has spoken about these things that are coming from the heavens. But Esau, Edom, and his wise men, and all they that are, of this same, mindset, continually tell the people, we don't know what's going on. We don't have any clue. All right, let me draw back again to the very first paragraph. It says reports of unidentified flying objects have surged in recent months, drawing attention from experts and the public alike. Drawing attention from the experts. Now we have experts on the so-called unidentified flying objects. Well, if you're an expert, then you should be able to solve the problem and figure it out and bring it out if you're an expert. How can you be an expert and not know how to solve the problem? You see? But this is just Esau Edom, doing what Esau Edom does. Lying and deceit. Okay? That's what Esau Edom does. So all that being said, these so-called UFOs, which are the chariots of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, that are coming back to destroy Esau Edom, to lay this plan desolate along with them thermonuclear missiles, these are what we're seeing. Spaceships, if you will. These are what we're seeing. They're not unidentified. They've been throughout time and throughout history known as the chariots of God. Chariots of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Alright? So the brother Tazawar put this in the chat section. I want to just, expound on it a little bit. Alright? Here's some images of what Esau has all throughout the world. Now check this out, right? Real quick. So here, this little white one here, with all the circles around about it. All right. It's funny because Ezekiel said they were like eyes round about the chariot, right? But if you look in different locations of the world, you got the same shape type object with the same type windows or eyes, if you will. All right, let's go down a little bit more. Here's another one in a different location. All right, go down. Here's another one in a different location. Here's another one. So somebody knows something somewhere. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. Why are they all, constructing this very same similar looking craft, if you will, as Ezekiel has explained, with eyes round about it? Here's another one. Here's another one. And again, I'm not saying this is, carved in stone, but just to give you a visual. And these devils know. They know that these are from the chariots of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Right? And like I said, the interesting thing is that these things have been erected in different locations of the world with the same exact style and setup. All right? Same exact style and setup. Let me see. Let me see. Here it is right there. Verse 18. It says, and as for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes round about them four. All right? So again, it could be talking about windows, But the whole crux of the matter is what? These things are known in the script, the holy scriptures, as chariots of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Point blank, period. And there's going to be a lot more sightings. There's going to be a lot more visual, sightings of these chariots of the Lord, as we're now coming down to the wire and the things are starting to heat up, All right, so that's it. I just want to hit that quick little, lesson on this one here, the chariots of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. They're not unidentified. They're not aerial phenomena. They're not, apparatuses and structures that are unknown to man. You see? Esau is the devil, and if the devil does what he does, he's a liar. I'm going to say shalom.